Gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the Deputy Mayor and Speaker.
Please be seated. I'd like to welcome you to this council meeting of the Borough of Telford and Wrekin. Before moving on to the first item, there will be a minute's silence for the 4 young men from Shrewsbury, Hugo Morris, Harvey Owen, Will Fitchett and Jevon Hurst, who sadly lost their lives on a camping trip on the way to Wales, and also for the current international conflicts, in particular the Middle East. Please can I invite the Reverend Ian Oliver from Dorley Baptist Church to lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Ian. As we have begun with a moment of silence, maybe it will be helpful for us just to continue. Maybe it'd be helpful to close our eyes, centre ourselves, because there'll be lots of things that will be filling our minds. The day has been busy. There are many calls on our time. In this moment, we hand them to God, and we ask for his peace, and we ask for his wisdom. In the Christian Church, this season of Advent begins tomorrow, a season of preparation, so we will be ready to meet with God when he comes. So I'm going to briefly read a 2,500-year-old passage from the Jewish prophet Isaiah, who tells an oppressed and downtrodden nation of a new and better ruler to come. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For to us a child is born. To us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Councillor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end, and he will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing it and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. Almighty God, I pray for these men and women gathered here this evening to discuss important matters which will impact the lives of those who live and work in our borough. Thank you for their willingness to serve in this way. I ask you to bless them, and I ask that they may be able to put to one side any political differences and the loud voices of lobbyists and vested interests, so that the decisions made tonight may be just and right. Decisions that take fair account of the needs of the vulnerable and needy, that will take fair account of the social and environmental impact as well as economic benefits, and that we will make decisions which will ultimately lead to a healthy, diverse community of people who know that they belong to this borough and to one another, living and working in safety and peace. Amen. Lord, that we are only here by your grace for a short time on this planet. And I pray that you will empower us here tonight to look to you as you entrust some of your government to rest on their shoulders. May your Holy Spirit direct and guide their thoughts, words, and actions. May you help them to listen attentively and speak wisely, and so lead them on a path of unity, justice, and peace. I ask in the name of that Prince of Peace who gave his life to serve and save the world for now and for all eternity. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Okay. Thank you very much. We move on to agenda item 2, which is apologies for absence. Can I please ask the Democratic Services Office to confirm any apologies received in advance?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've had apologies from Councillors Erin Aston, Karen Blundell, Eileen Callear, Arnold England, Gilly Latham Reynolds and Shirley Reynolds.
Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 3 is declarations of interests. I'm asking for any of those from the floor, please. Okay, there are none, thank you. Agenda item 4 is the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have a proposal to confirm the minutes from the previous meeting of full council on the 13th of July 2023, please? Thank you very much, Councillors Davis and Councillors Overton. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? That's carried. Agenda item 5, leaders' reports and announcements. I'll now invite the leader, Councillor Sean Davis, to address the meeting, and I'd like to extend my thanks for him to advising me that he wanted to speak on a couple of issues beforehand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since we last met in July, we've seen a host of significant local, national and international events that have had an impact on our residents and our communities. And I wanted to open this evening by offering our sincere condolences to the friends and family of Jevon, Wilf, Harvey and Hugo. 4 local teenagers who have close ties with this borough and who were tragically lost their lives in an accident whilst on a camping trip together. I know I speak for all councillors and our community when I say our thoughts and deepest sympathies are with the boys' families and friends at this time. The compassion we feel for others in the face of huge personal loss is a part of what makes us human. And despite being thousands of miles away, there can't be anyone in this borough who has not been deeply affected by what's happening in Israel and Gaza. Developments in recent days have offered some cause of hope, but we've seen huge loss of life and indescribable suffering on all sides. Telford and Wrekin is a borough made up of many communities and faiths. As a council, we have a role in supporting community cohesion, and we care about this deeply. United as a borough, we join people across the globe in calling for a solution where Israel and Palestine can be successful, secure and safe whilst living alongside each other. Nationally, the government's autumn statement just a few weeks ago was another significant event that will have a direct impact for people in our borough. Whilst the headlines around national insurance reductions seemed on the face of it to help, independent organisations have said that the tax burden will go up, giving us the highest tax burden for 70 years. And if you scratch further below the surface, the wider impact of the Chancellor's decisions on support for local people is not positive. The lack of investment in local government and local services as part of the statement has been bitterly disappointing for all councils and will impact on all communities. We've seen no further investment for the services that matter in our communities, protecting our most vulnerable adults and children, supporting economic growth, or keeping our places clean and green. This is a huge missed opportunity. Once again, the simple reality is local residents will pay more in local taxation and get less in local services. As leader of this council, I am proud of what we've achieved for our residents. We have vibrant communities, our local economy is growing, our children's services have been judged outstanding, for example, but we like others across local government, are in the eye of an inflationary storm, and we are now faced with more difficult decisions about funding future services. £100 today buys far less than 10 years ago. In fact, the Bank of England suggests that goods or services costing £100 in 2013 would cost £134 today. What's more, in Telford and Wrekin, we've seen the government's revenue support grant fall from £52 million in 2013, 40% of our net revenue budget, to £11.6 million today, just 8%. Thinking about it from your household's perspective, it would mean for every £100 you did have each year, you have now just £40. The things you pay for have gone up from £100 to £134. As a result, our budget is stretched across all services, but we are facing a monumental challenge in funding adult and children social care. And these services, we're not only seeing the impact of inflation, but that of a sharp increase in the need and demand from our communities for vital and more costly services. Every council in the country, regardless of political persuasion, is seeing double-digit increases in the cost of providing services compared to just 1 year ago. And we really feel this in Telford and Wrekin because we have one of the fastest growing and ageing populations in the country. This financial year, we have budgeted over £100 million to pay for adult and children social care in our borough. That's 68% of the council's total net budget. And we've now invested a further £5.5 million into these services, and it's still not enough. Council services are the foundation of our communities across the country, and many people simply cannot live or thrive without them. More and more of our residents need our services, but without adequate government funding, the reality is that many more people will pay more council tax but be getting less. The Local Government Association estimates that nationally, if nothing changes, councils are facing a funding gap of £4 billion over the next 2 years. And this assumes that councils make the difficult choice to increase council tax to the maximum before any referendum is needed. A record of strong financial control in Telford and Wrekin means we've done all that we can to keep our council tax the lowest in the Midlands, the second lowest in the country for the services that we provide. But my message is clear to our residents this evening. Because the government aren't returning your money, your council tax will go up next year, and you will get less from this council next year. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to update you on one of the biggest local issues for our residents, Future Fit and the government's plans to downgrade our hospital. As a council, we've been fighting these plans for years, giving local people a voice and challenging the decisions being made on their behalf. In October, after a 6 months wait from the Department of Health, it was confirmed that plans to downgrade our Princess Royal's A&E and move our consultant-led women's and children's case would once again be considered by an independent reconfiguration panel. This is positive. My plea is very clear. Ask yourselves, how does it make sense to make Telford the largest town in the country without a fully functioning A&E? Telford and Wrekin has one of the fastest growing and ageing populations in the country, and 1 in 4 people have no access to their own car or van, facing a marathon round trip of up to 4 hours by bus to Shrewsbury. Telford will lose out under these government plans, and we deserve better. The decision will ultimately land back on the desk of the Health Secretary, the current Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, who's the 5th Health Secretary since Matt Hancock made the decision about our A&E, and we urge her to overturn the decision made by Matthew Hancock. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as times are particularly difficult up and down this borough and around the country and internationally, I know it's hard not to feel disheartened, but I wanted to end on this. When we're facing tough times, when the chips are down, that's when you hold your family, your friends, and your community closer. And as we head towards Christmas and a brand new year, be happy and be hopeful. And who knows what opportunities 2024 will bring, and things can only get better.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Moving on to agenda item 6 and the Mayor's announcements. I'll now hand over to Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ian Preece.
Thank you, Paul. I'd like to ask members to note the engagements undertaken since the last council meeting. The list was shown and has been circulated. I'm delighted to be sitting here today. Might need a bit of a booster seat because Arnold's a bit higher than me, so I'm sorry if you can't see my head. I've been supporting Arnold over a few prior engagements, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Tomorrow is the start of the festive season, and I hope many of you will be joining me at the Christmas Carol service and light switch on. If you wish to come along, please find the details sent from the member of the Mayor's office earlier today, or contact the member support team. I would like to finish off by saying that I look forward to continuing to support the Mayor throughout this year. And on behalf of myself and the Mayor, we'd like to thank all the members for their support, and I hope you and your families have a safe and well festive period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Okay, agenda item 7 is public questions, and I can confirm that none have been received. So we move swiftly on to agenda item 8, and that's Councillors' questions on notice. We have 4 questions. I'd like to remind members that questions are circulated in advance and are also shown on the screens. I'd like to start by inviting Councillor Stephen Handley to ask his question to Councillor Carter, and Councillor Handley, you have 2 minutes to ask.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the following question to Councillor L.D. Carter, Cabinet Member for Place, the Economy and Neighbourhood Services. As you are aware, there has been increasing concern over the Holyhead Road by Central Park in St George's. I know the current and previous Labour councillors for St George's have been advocating for the road to be improved, and I've also wanted signals added to the junction of Furness Road. This is a major scheme, and I would be delighted if the Cabinet Member for Place could inform me if there is a date now agreed for this project to commence, and if the junction will be signalled to help improve road safety and ease congestion.
Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley, for your question. You'll be aware that despite record cuts from government and vigorous opposition in this chamber for the additional funding for improvements to local roads, footpaths and cycleways, this administration has prioritised major improvement schemes across the borough, in particular a number of challenging repairs to structures and retaining walls, including most notably in Ironbridge Gorge. In the absence of funding from government, which I would point out to members has reduced in terms of long-term maintenance for roads, footpaths and bridges by over 50% in the last 5 years, this council is investing around 1 million of its own funding into current repairs of Jiggers Bank to make it safe for years to come. We will continue to invest significantly in our highways infrastructure, despite continued cuts in government funding for highways maintenance. From a position of being voted as having amongst the worst roads in the country in 2010, we now rank first in the West Midlands and second nationally in the National Highway and Transportation Survey. There is always more that can be done, and over the next 2 years we're investing over £24 million into transport and highway schemes to ensure roads and footpaths are well maintained and that people can travel around the borough safely. As part of all this, I'm pleased to confirm that the following work by officers and representations by my colleagues, the members for St George's, improvements to Holyhead Road in St George's will take place early in the new year, with work set to commence late January. This is again a complex structural engineering project which will see improvements to the retaining wall, resurfacing of the roads, the footpaths, as well as the introduction of a signalised junction that will include pedestrian crossing facilities. That will improve road safety for all who use that junction. I know this is an improvement that will be warmly welcomed by the residents of St George's and those who use this road. I'd like to thank the ward members not just for their support on this, but also for their continued support for this administration's continued investment into our roads, footpaths and cycleways.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Handley?
Yeah, I would just like to thank Councillor Lee Carter, Labour Cabinet Member for Place, for his answer on Holyhead Road, and look forward in seeing the work completed both in the repair of the road and that of the safety aspect. Really do appreciate this, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now invite Councillor Helena Morgan to ask her question to Councillor Middleton.
I'm really pleased to see that Telford and Wrekin are spreading the message of zero tolerance on violence towards both men and women. There is a funding gap for community service for domestic abuse, and since the pandemic there has been an increase of 20% in reported domestic violence, so to see our local authority prioritise this topic is brilliant to see. Can you tell me a little bit more about any planned work in the area that will help to continue the white ribbon message in the long term?
Thank you, Councillor Morgan, for your question. Fundamentally, as a borough, our aim is to ensure our communities can identify domestic abuse, know where to turn for help, victims and their families are supported, and perpetrators are dealt with effectively, from prosecution to reducing future harm and offending. Since becoming a white ribbon town in 2011, we believe and strive to ensure that no one should live in fear of domestic abuse. It's not acceptable, not inevitable, and by working as a cooperative council, we can make it stop. White ribbon is the tip of the iceberg for us and a starting point that signals our commitment towards this goal. To ensure that there is frontline support over the next 3 years, the council is investing £1.5 million to ensure victims and survivors can access help from our new domestic abuse service, delivered by a non-for-profit independent organisation with 50 years' experience, Cranston, and the highly respected West Mercia Women's Aid. Our work is also overseen by the Domestic Abuse Local Partnership, where all agencies are represented and work together. In terms of ongoing work, we have long championed support and preventative measures all year round. Members will be aware of our Building Safer Stronger Communities programme that has helped more than 200 women complete free self-defence classes, with more sessions currently being planned for the new year. Every year, the Telford 5K Park Run educated 400+ crowd about the aims of White Ribbon, while raising awareness on ways in which everyone can make a difference in calling it out. Those who attend the park run, including both men and women, are encouraged to sign a pledge to never use, excuse or remain silent about men's violence against women. Our continued investment into a network of over 700 CCTV cameras that is live monitored by both the council and the police acts as reassurance and supports evidence gathering. CCTVs...
Thank you very much, Councillor Middleton. I'm going to have to ask you to come to a close. Councillor Morgan, is there a supplementary question that you wish to ask?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I now wish to invite Councillor Angela McClements to ask a question to Councillor Raj Mehta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since 2011, under this administration, the Councillors' Pride Fund has given ward members the opportunity to allocate funding towards improvements or projects within their ward. This funding has given 54 councillors the opportunity to make a big difference with a small amount of money, supporting many hundreds of projects that benefit local communities, improving the lives of their community during these very difficult times. Could the Cabinet Member for Inclusion, Engagement, Equalities and Civic Pride confirm whether this much-needed funding will be continued in 2024-25? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McClements, for your question about Councillor Pride Fund, which, as you've highlighted, has been delivering a huge variety of projects for more than a decade and making a real difference to our residents and community across Telford and Wrekin. Yet last year alone, the Council invested more than £500,000 into the Councillors' Pride Fund, which funded 402 individual projects. Even better, every pound we invested attracted 46p of match funding, showing how commitment to working partnership is benefiting our residents. We will be bringing an update on the success of the Council's Pride Fund to Cabinet in January 2024, highlighting examples of many schemes members have supported in their wards, everything from defibrillators to community libraries, tree planting to events, and much, much more. I'm also delighted to confirm that we will be continuing to prioritise our investment into the Councillor Pride Fund in 2024-25, as we have been this year, despite the unprecedented financial challenges facing this Council.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mehta. Councillor McClements, do you have a supplementary question?
No, I don't, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. And I would also now like to invite Councillor Elise Davis to ask her question to Councillor Carolyn Healy.
I was pleased to be able to open the newly refurbished Princess End play area, and it has been wonderful to see the difference that this has made for children in our ward. What else is the Council doing to improve children's play opportunities across the borough?
Thank you very much for your question. So through the recent investment of £750,000 into children's play areas, we've upgraded 38 play areas with a further 7 currently in progress in wards right across the borough. We've also invested a further £938,000 from developer contributions. That's into an additional 20 projects, and with an added value of £49,000 from parish and town councils and Councillor Pride contributions. So I'd like to thank all members of both tiers of local government for their support in children's play. The investment has included more accessible play facilities for children with disabilities, and we've also been working with an organisation called Make Space for Girls to look at what more we can do for teenage girls, because evidence shows that from around the age of 12, girls stop using play areas, and those teen spaces become dominated by boys. So that's another area that we're trying to get the right sort of facility for through that investment. Investing in play areas is not easy when council budgets are under such increasing pressure due to 13 years of underfunding of public services from this Conservative government. But we know that play facilities are vitally important to children's development and are valued by our communities. Work has started on developing a play strategy for the borough, and that will help us target future investments and ensure that we meet the needs of all children. And I look forward to bringing that strategy to Cabinet in the new year.
Thank you very much, Councillor Healy. Councillor Elise Davis, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Councillor Healy. All of our play parks within the ward are located within valuable green spaces, many of which are green guarantee sites. Can the Cabinet Member work with me and my fellow ward member to designate all of them into the green guarantee sites and ensure that this is communicated effectively to residents?
Thank you. Yes, so last year we increased the number of green guarantee sites from 200 to over 300, and we've designated the vast majority of our open space and including our play areas. We're also rolling out a programme of installing signage so that people know that these are protected sites and they're there for people to enjoy. But I am happy to work with Councillor Davis to identify further sites and share details of the signage plans.
Thank you very much, members. That comes to an end of the questions. So, agenda item 9, Cabinet decisions made at the last meeting of the Council. I would like to remind members that these should be questions of clarity only on items marked as key decisions on the report. Are there any questions of clarifications, not debate, from members? No, that's marvellous. Thank you very much. Okay, we now move on to agenda item 10, which is the CSE inquiry update. Can I please invite Councillor Lee Carter to propose the item?
Thank you, Speaker. Members, the report before you follows on from the report provided to full Council in July, which included the annual report on CSE, as well as progress on the independent inquiry. Members will know that we undertook to invite the independent inquiry chair, Tom Crowther KC, back to Telford and Wrekin to review the progress of implementation of the recommendations contained within the inquiry report back to Telford and Wrekin before the end of this year. This report confirms that we are on track to do that. Since triggering the process for an independent inquiry into CSE in Telford in 2018, this administration has done everything it can do to ensure that the needs of and concerns of victims and survivors of child sexual exploitation in Telford and Wrekin are reflected in our response. When moving that motion at the Council meeting in 2018, I made it quite clear that we would leave no stone unturned in our work, and in that time we have provided as much resource as necessary to ensure that this is the case, both in terms of supporting the inquiry, but also in terms of ensuring every single recommendation for the Council is delivered to the very highest standard possible. We have always been determined in our view that it is the independent chair who will decide whether we have met the recommendations, and that it is not for us to say that the actions are complete. The report before you confirms that 75% of the Council's actions are ready for further assessment by Tom Crowther KC. To be quite clear, no action has been updated as being assessment ready until those with lived experience have been involved and provided feedback on the steps taken to meet the recommendation. It is only at that point that an update has been provided to the Strategic Implementation Group to seek confirmation that the recommendation is ready for assessment by the independent chair. Of the remaining 25% of recommendations, which relate to those that require systemic change, they are on track to be assessment ready by the end of this year. That being the case, the report seeks delegated authority to be given to the Director for Policy and Governance to write to the independent chair to ask him to return. Before moving, I want to end by placing on record my personal thanks and that of the whole Council to the 3 lived experience consultees. Their determination, their candidness and their personal dedication to their involvement in this whole process has brought value to the work that we have done to implement the actions. Both as a council and as a borough, Telford and Wrekin is better for their contribution. I move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carter. Is that seconded? Thank you very much, Councillor Healy. Are there any questions or comments relating to the report? Councillor Eade, Doug Moore, and then Councillor Tomlinson. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. I note with considerable interest the current state of play with implementing the large amount of recommendations put forward by Tom Crowther KC within his CSE inquiry report that was published some 17 months ago, back in July 2022, which specifically applied to this Borough Council. However, contrary to what is suggested within the report before us, I can see no substantial reason for not pressing ahead with a request for Mr. Crowther to start reviewing corrective actions straight away. After all, As such an arrangement and piece of work will take some considerable time to arrange and put in place, I would like to propose an amendment to this report's recommendation and request that Mr Crowther's review be triggered right away to prevent any further delay. Further to this, I would like to receive a full breakdown of the corrective actions already completed by this Council, together with those in progress and targeted for completion by the end of December. I would also ask that a full briefing be arranged for myself and colleagues before the end of December this year concerning both completed and any uncompleted recommendations. It would also be very useful to include any such briefings about the current state of play with other borough organisations on how they have progressed or otherwise with their own applicable recommendations specified within the inquiry report. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Dugmore.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Speaker. Just a quick question, really, just to be reassured as to the integrity of the actions to date. Could the Cabinet member confirm if the lived experience consultees mentioned in the report have received any direct or indirect funding from the Council, and if so, how much?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's pleasing to see that this report has come 6 months earlier than was asked by Tom Crowther, which is to be congratulated. And I also want to put on my record as well our group's real sincere thanks to those people, the lived experience consultees who've taken a part in this, and for the officers' hard work in trying to put the report together. I'm sure as the question was asked that we'll get an idea as to when the report will finally go off to Tom Crowther, but the sooner the better, and then we get the response back and we can see if there's any gaps that we've done or may not. It'd be good to see. It's also a pity that the group opposite there, when they were offered a chance to be participated within this review before it went off to Tom Crowther, refused to participate, and now they wish to have a briefing. Wouldn't it have been good if they'd have actually said that they wanted to take part in that? And wasn't it cowardly to not even want to take part in case something bad comes up so we can just sit there and moan at it when Tom Crowther's report comes back? Shame on them. Shame on them for not taking part. It's not a perfect world, but we have to take part in whatever it is. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tomlinson. Councillor Scott.
My mic's not. Oh, it is working. Good, good, good. Really, I just wanted to pay tribute to the Council, and in particular to Councillor Carter, for the amazing work they've done on this. There's been a lot of political footballing on it. There's been some terrible things said and done on social media about it, mostly by people who haven't got a clue what they're talking about. This is a very important subject, as we know, and it's been dealt with properly. As I say, they don't get enough credit for what they do. A lot of good work has been done. A lot more good work is going to be done. And I think the fact that those people who never had a voice are now working with the Council speaks volumes. So congratulations and thank you for all the work to this point and for what you do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There were no other indications, so Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As a member of the original CSE group that started this, it was, I'd like to make a point, the Conservative opposition who insisted on this CSE inquiry, which was originally refused and publicly refused on Midlands Today television. Now, what we're expecting and what we were told we would get is regular updates and progress. We are getting reports, but it doesn't give us any substantive information in any of these reports. Personally, I would like to see it. There is still a lack of confidence out there with the general public that this particular issue is going to be addressed and go away.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bentley. Okay, with no one else indicating, I'll ask now, Councillor Carter, do you have anything to add?
A little bit, actually, in light of some of the comments, to deal with some of the specifics. We're not here to override the express wishes of the lived experience consultees who have made it absolutely clear to us that they do not want anything passed for assessment to Tom Crowther without their blessing. But we do have availability for Tom Crowther KC to come back, and he'll be back in March. In terms of the comment about payment, we're not here to disclose any arrangement, personal arrangement. That's not appropriate, but I think the comment is wholly inappropriate. And I look at members opposite who, at one point in this process, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Bentley, to name but two, who assured me there'd be cross-party cooperation on this issue. How you can sit next to an individual who's just made that comment or that intimation about lived experience consultees is beyond me. I'm talking, thank you. We praise, we thank, and they've just clearly gone on the attack tonight, and I think that's absolutely appalling. And you continually want to try and set the record straight, and I think it would be remiss of me not to set the record straight, because what we've heard tonight is about you not listening again. And this follows a bit of a theme, doesn't it? And I will say these things. 2009, you didn't listen when you were told that Daphne project funding would be available to help raise awareness of CSE and develop solutions to tackle CSE. In 2011, you didn't listen when you criticised the incoming Labour administration's reversal of their decision to merge, of your decision to merge the post of Director of Children's Services with the role of CEO. In 2016, you didn't listen to Ofsted or the Home Office or others who said when they came in that the situation in terms of the Council's response to CSE has markedly improved. In 2018, when we called for a statutory inquiry to compel witnesses to attend, you didn't listen then, and that's why within the report there was criticism of 5 men who didn't contribute to the inquiry. And since 2018, you've refused to listen to survivors to stop playing politics on this issue, and continually not listen to our invites to participate in the process and be at a point now where you don't need a briefing because you'd have known everything that you need to know. And here we are in 2023 and you are still not listening. Well, I want just to make this absolute reassurance to people. We have listened, we've done the hard yards, and we are fast approaching the verdict of the ultimate arbiter in this, which is Tom Crowther KC, who will deliver his assessment and tell us exactly where we are on this important issue for the benefit of the whole of Telford and Wrekin.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Can I have a show of hands, please, in favour? Can we have a show of hands against? And can I call for abstentions now, please? That's carried. Thank you very much. We move on to agenda item 11, which is the governance update. Can I please invite Councillor Nathan England to propose this item? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker. This governance report has a number of recommendations. The first is an update on member development and specifically the member induction programme, setting out the topics which have covered and the thematic approach taken, along with upcoming training courses, and some points of note include 48% of councillors have attended the Code of Conduct training, with more training sessions coming up. So if you haven't, please can I encourage you all to attend one of these sessions. The Hit the Ground Running theme has now ended and covered a wide range of training to help members old and new to get started for the new term. It covered specific training such as licensing and planning committees, Code of Conduct training, personal safety and corporate parenting. The second theme, operating as an effective councillor, is underway, with training sessions on a variety of topics including financial management, communications, procurement and training and skills training. The third theme, roles and responsibilities, will see those members with leadership roles being provided with committee and role-specific training. So far, the feedback on the training offer has been very positive, with most training scoring 90%. The report also seeks approval for a revised constitution, which is largely a further tidying up exercise, but does include a new flowchart with the rules of debate to simplify and clarify the process for motions and amendments. It also sets out that the leader has the power to appoint an acting cabinet member should a cabinet member be on a leave of absence. Finally, the report asks approval for a leave of absence for Councillor Shirley Reynolds until the 12th of July 2024, owing to ill health, and sets out that she may return earlier than that date should she wish to do so. Before I move the recommendations, I would like to thank the Democratic Services team for their work in organising and delivering the induction programme. Also, a thank you to all members across the Chamber for your attendance. I would like to move the recommendations en bloc. Mr Speaker, I move the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor England. Is that seconded? Thank you very much, Councillor Overton. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Councillor Eade, Councillor Dugmore. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much again, Speaker. Speaker, if what I've heard is correct, and I'm very sorry to hear of Councillor Reynolds' accident, I want you to convey my best wishes to her and hope that she has a speedy recovery and is soon able to undertake her duties once again. However, and despite supporting absolutely and without any reservations the leave of absence of Councillor Reynolds until at least July 12th next year, it remains absolutely impossible to support the remainder of this full council report. Gerrymandering with members' allowance schemes seems to be a speciality of this administration, and this administration alone. What is being proposed here once again flies in the face of the independent review panel headed by Professor Leach a short while ago in September 2019. So let me help you put your outrageous proposals into perspective, as you are proposing to take at least £10,500 of public money and give it to an elected member for what? The definition of a special responsibility allowance and what that is paid for is as follows. It's for councillors who hold certain positions, such as holding a portfolio within the executive or being the chair of a committee, are paid a special responsibility allowance, that's the SRA, to cover their expenses in carrying out their extra duties. Councillors are paid this in addition to their basic allowance. At a time of financial constraints to this council, which we've just heard about, plus the cost of living increases to our community, how in heaven's name can this Labour administration justify giving away an unbudgeted £10,500, which is equivalent to the average provision of 560 hours of care packages to the most vulnerable people in this borough? What particularly angers me with these proposals are that some of my ward members are having their care packages squeezed by this council, while at the same time you're going to dole out several £1,000s in handouts to councillors for no return. Now, this simply cannot happen. This is a lot of money, a lot of public money out of the public purse, which is being proposed to be given, added to the existing scheme that we have at the moment. That cannot be right, and it is something that really we cannot vote in favour of.
Thank you, Councillor Eade. Councillor Dugmore, please.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, in a similar vein, I mean, obviously, some of the changes to the Constitution have no problem at all. But, we are elected to look after and to be responsible for public money, as Councillor Eade points out. And therefore, as he says, if an acting cabinet member is appointed, would it not be better if the special responsibility allowance be transferred from the original cabinet member, which would then mean no increase in the remuneration budget and mean that we would be fiscally responsible?
Thank you very much. Councillor Davis, please. Sean Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm never surprised that the gutter that the individuals opposite get themselves into on issues like this. Any cheap little headline that they can grab, often they are first and foremost at the head of the queue. I hear nothing from them when councillors in their group take hundreds of thousands of pounds from the council in fees for professional services that they get paid for from this council, and they sit on the backside and do nothing the rest of the year. The only time I've ever heard Councillor Eade want to complain about council allowances was when his own council allowance was reduced because he yet again was defeated, was a loser at the last local elections. Let me be very clear what we're asking for. I'm speaking now, Andrew.
Councillor Eade. Councillor Eade.
What an aggressive little man we have opposite us.
Councillor Eade. Councillor Eade. Councillor Davis is speaking, and we will be heard.
And if he's like that in public, God knows what he's like in private, Mr. Speaker. So to the point, the reason why we're asking for this is because just like maternity leave, which I don't know whether they're in favour of, being the dinosaurs that they are, or paternity leave, or adoption leave, this is about somebody who is a cabinet member who's unable to perform their duties through ill health. Now, I know they never, as we've heard earlier on, they never quite appreciated the importance of cabinet members for children and young people or directors of children services. But this is about having an acting cabinet member potentially for a statutory service. And I don't think it's right that somebody who's ill should have to lose a payment on the basis that they are unwell. Now, if the councillors opposite do, then that's on them, Mr. Speaker. But as I say, you spot a gutter, and each and every time they jump in it.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Nathan England, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Okay. Can I have a show of hands against? And can I have a call for any abstentions? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Agenda item 12 is recommendations from committees and boards. 12A is the Audit Commission. Can I please invite Councillor Angela McClements to propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I formally move the recommendations from the Audit Committee of the 26th of July 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. That's been proposed. Please. Thank you very much, Councillor England. Are you reserving your right to speak as well? Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on the report, please? I have seen Councillor Dugmore, Councillor Paul, Thomas. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick question on the Treasury Management Annual Report at 4.1. It says short-term borrowing through temporary loans, mainly from other local authorities, help to cover cash flow. I wonder if we could have a breakdown of which authorities and the amounts that we borrowed from.
Thank you, Councillor Paul Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first of all, let me say thank you for a very comprehensive report. Treasury report. We are unable to comment and therefore accept the contents of this report, however. The reason for this is that the audit report covering 2021-22 still has not been issued. When will it be, and why has there been such a long delay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Councillor England.
Thank you, members, for your questions. I'll email you the answers, if that's okay.
Thank you. Councillor McClements, have you got anything to add?
Nothing much, Speaker, except obviously the Audit Committee is cross-party, and cross-party members, of which Councillor Thomas is a member, welcome the positive report in the current volatile financial environment, and we thanked officers for their work. And as an Audit Committee, we were encouraged to see good compliance with indicators and a sensible approach to borrowing.
Okay,
Thank you.
Councillor England, you wanted to speak?
Just a comment, really. I just wanted to take a few seconds just to thank our Finance and HR Director, Mr. Ken Clark, who is retiring from the Council shortly after 40 years of really good service. I know he doesn't like a lot of fuss, but I just felt we couldn't really let that go. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ken, and may you have a long and happy retirement. You'll certainly be missed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor England. Can I have a show of hands in favour? Excuse me, I'm chairing the meeting.
I understand that, but I just wanted a bit of clarification on a point of order. In the absence of audit report, are we able to actually accept it?
Councillor Bentley, to raise a point of order, you need to set out which rule of the Constitution you're relying upon. So if you can do that, then I'll gladly answer the query.
Councillor Bentley? No? Okay, then I will continue with the meeting. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Okay, thank you. Can I have those against to indicate? And can I have a show of hands for any abstentions? Thank you very much. That's carried. Okay, agenda item 13 is notices of motion. Item 13A, can Councillor Andrew Eade please move the motion as detailed in the agenda and shown on the screen, please? You have 5 minutes to propose.
It's very kind of you, Speaker. Thank you very much. I'm sure that everybody here shares my disappointment with the NHS plan for the future of our hospital provision here in the borough. I'm sure many here will also share my bitter disappointment at the final failure of this council to work constructively with all parties over the past years. A partnership once forged, which may have brought about a single-site solution, what we, on all sides of the council, now seemingly support. Disappointingly, not once has there been a unified response by this council, despite offers from the Conservative group and others, to help achieve a brand new hospital between Telford and Shrewsbury. Not once has there been a constructive dialogue with other stakeholders in Shropshire, all of whom, at one time or another, had expressed a positive view about a single-site hospital. Not once was the moment seized to work constructively with Shropshire, or indeed clinicians, to achieve that goal. And in particular, I'm going to single out former PRH Chief Exec David Sambach for his unceasing efforts to achieve a positive outcome from this NHS-driven debacle. It was David, Mark Pritchard, an MP for the Wrekin, and Councillor Dugmore, myself, that we glimpsed the future by way of a new single-site emergency hospital at Cramlington in Northumberland during November 2017. That was exactly 6 years ago. And despite Mr Sambach producing a very detailed report of our visit, Cramlington's clinicians offering to visit the borough and also invite councillors and officers to visit Cramlington, we're still awaiting a response to our proposals from this administration 6 years later. What we have seen in its place is an absolute pledge by this council's leader to deliver the health services that our borough needs, and it's simply failed completely. It's an absolute failure that not only fomented an unseemly row between opposing political parties in Telford and Shrewsbury, but produced 4 different council policy solutions along the way. Firstly was the decision under the then leader, who was then Councillor Sahota, to sit back and say and do nothing, as A&E services at the PRH were already in the bag, as the PRH had the Women and Children's Unit in place. Then came a call for the A&E on both sites, followed by a policy of an A&E at Telford only. Finally, we arrived at a new hospital between Telford and Shrewsbury as the council's policy. All a little too late to meet your relatively recent quote, Councillor Davies, of being bold and working together. However, the final kick in the teeth has been Keir Starmer apparently not committing any funding to retain an A&E facility at the PRH, should there be a change of government, of course.
It would seem to me that the NHS have certainly had their way, along with consultants elsewhere in the county, although I know from conversations that I've had in the past, many consultants supported a new, modern, cutting-edge hospital between Shropshire's two main conurbations. From more recent conversation, it seems to me that many of our community are now fatigued by the whole process, which will probably have cost the NHS many millions of pounds that should have been put to better use locally. Despite the NHS now seemingly being successful in driving their plan forward, I cannot help but wonder about what might have been achieved by a bit of craft, a statesmanlike approach to this whole issue.
Thank you, Councillor Eade. Can I, Councillor Dugmore, are you seconding the motion?
I will, but I reserve my right to speak.
Okay, thank you. I understand there's an amendment to this motion. The amendments are shown in yellow on the screen. Councillor Paul Watling, are you proposing this?
I am. Can I just start by just saying I'm amazed by the speech we've just heard. You know, we have 20,000 people signed a petition that is still going on from the people of Telford and Wrekin to say they are unhappy with the decisions that have been made. So you're not working in reality, Councillor Eade. Can I just say this amended motion shares our joint sense of disappointment across the chamber, but also an unwavering commitment to the well-being of our community. Over the past 13 years, despite undertakings to the contrary, we find ourselves in a situation where the commitment from the government, Prime Ministers and MPs to provide a state-of-the-art health provision for this borough has fallen short of our, to say the least, has fallen short of our expectations. Firstly, let us address the matter of the decision by former Health Secretary Matt Hancock to downgrade the hospital services. This decision has left the community vulnerable, and we all know the dangers of that decision. This amendment resolves for us to continue to fight for that change to be reversed. Secondly, our healthcare system is only as strong as its primary care providers. The amendment broadens the call to advocate for fairer funding for GPs, pharmacists and dentists in our borough. A more equitable distribution of resources will ensure that these essential pillars of our healthcare system can provide the services our residents need and deserve. It's time to bridge the gaps in funding, ensuring that every corner of our community has access to quality healthcare. We can see from our own data on health inequalities in our borough the effects of 13 years of mismanagement and underfunding by the Tory government. And what did the current Chancellor offer the NHS in last week's autumn statement? Absolutely nothing. Lastly, amidst the challenges and setbacks, it's crucial to acknowledge and applaud the tireless efforts of our NHS staff. Despite facing continued underfunding, they work relentlessly to offer the best possible services to our community. Their dedication is commendable, and it's our duty to recognise and appreciate their hard work. In conclusion, let's unite in our commitment to the health and well-being of the people of Telford and Wrekin by pursuing these initiatives together, lobbying against hospital service downgrades, advocating for fairer funding for primary care and praising our NHS staff. We send a powerful message that we stand together for a healthcare system that our residents can rely on and be proud of. I urge each and every one of you to support this amended motion, not just as representatives, but as advocates for the health and prosperity of the people of Telford. Let us work together to strive for a healthier, happier future for Telford and Wrekin.
Thank you very much, Councillor Watling. Councillor McClements, do you wish to second this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I could speak on it now, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, please.
Thank you. At the very heart of it is the health and well-being of our residents across Telford and Wrekin, and a determination to continue fighting and campaigning for a state-of-the-art health provision, which our residents so much need and so much deserve. We remain absolutely committed to this, but we have now reached crisis point, and time is running out to secure any kind of commitment from government. So why on earth the Conservative opposition felt the need to attack the council for standing up for Telford and Wrekin for better healthcare is beyond me. They should be working alongside us and using their voice to lobby their own government. We need one voice working alongside each other, lobbying government. As the leader said in his report, and I think we just need to keep on saying it really, Telford and Wrekin is one of the fastest growing and ageing populations in the country, with greater health inequalities than Shropshire, and is disproportionately and has a disproportionately high number of residents without a car. Yet as it currently stands, we could become the largest town in the country without access to a full 27 A&E service. And now we have just heard that Telford's A&E road signs are going to have to be removed to avoid confusion. It's an absolute travesty and just another devastating blow that signals an A&E local is not an accident and emergency unit, and confirmation that our hospital will not be used for emergency treatment or where hospital admission is required. The failure of any kind of commitment from government on Telford and Wrekin's health provision is sadly no surprise, and their complete ineptitude of failing to even respond to the numerous correspondence that the leader sent earlier this year on behalf of the council has been appalling. But we continue to keep the pressure on with the Department of Health, who have at last confirmed the independent reconfiguration panel has been asked for more information. But it took months and months to get that response, and we can only hope that they listen to our strong case now. And as the leader said, we have 6 health secretaries since 2019, 4 in the last 2 years. So this gives you a stark answer about the chaos and ineptitude at the heart of government and why our health service is currently directionless and in such a mess.
10 seconds, Councillor.
Right,
Apologies.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll now open this up to debate. As a reminder, the debate is on the proposed amendment only and not the substantive motion, which we will be in a position to debate after the amendment has been dealt with. I've had a signal from Councillor Davis and Councillor Eade after that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a real shame that there is division in this chamber, as there is amongst members of Parliament in Shropshire, about the inherent issue in this, which is to make Telford and Wrekin the largest town in the country without a fully functioning accident and emergency department. And there is also some truths that Councillor Eade avoids in his submission earlier on to this chamber. I'm glad to say that over the last few years, residents have not fallen for the misrepresentations that they've heard from him and from others like him. Boris Johnson, the then Prime Minister, came to Telford and he said that our accident and emergency department in Telford would be safeguarded. Fast forward, Matthew Hancock, the disgraced former Health Secretary, wrote a letter to this council to say that he's going to give the green light to a so-called A&E local, which was then described as a good result. Indeed, the councillors opposite welcomed the investment at the time to close our accident and emergency department and our consultant-led women's and children unit. But of course they didn't understand the detail, that the comprehensive emergency treatment would not be offered at the Princess Royal Hospital site, that our consultant-led women's and children's unit would be moved from Telford, and in return we'd have nothing more than a convenience store, an A&E local. And sadly, members of Parliament, who are paid to stand up for Telford, have continued to welcome an A&E local and tell residents in Telford and Wrekin that they should be grateful for the investment made by the government. Daniel Kuczynski, the MP for Shrewsbury, constantly attacks this council for holding up these plans, yet Conservative councillors in this chamber say that we are doing nothing. Who's telling the truth, the Conservative MP for Shrewsbury or the Conservative councillors in this chamber? I have no idea. But what people have realised over recent years, Mr. Speaker, is a simple reality, that the National Health Service is being underfunded and underloved by this Conservative government. People can't see a GP when they need to see a GP. They can't see a decent pharmacist when they want to see a decent pharmacist. They can't get their children or themselves into a dentist when they need to see a dentist. And they are also seeing NHS staff working their absolute souls off each and every day under huge, huge pressure. The reality is the Conservatives can't be trusted with the National Health Service across this country, and the Conservative Party here in Telford and Wrekin can't be trusted with our A&E or our Princess Royal Hospital.
Thank you very much. Okay. Councillor Eade, you'd indicated, but before you speak, you'll be able to come in later in the discussion. So I'll move over to Councillor Healy and then Councillor Tomlinson.
There's another point of clarification, really, if you could.
To do with the wording.
Look, it's to do with the wording and the motion. It's wrong.
Excuse
You've
me.
got
There's a mistake.
the current Health Secretary to reserve the decision. I think you mean reverse. So you need actually to clarify what you're saying.
Wording, please, sir.
Okay.
It's behind you, as they say.
Exactly. I'll have a look over here. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So can we just clarify with?
Should be reverse. It's reverse in the original one that I put in. So.
Yeah. Okay. So for the sake of all members, it is reverse, not reserve. Yep. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Healy and then Councillor Tomlinson, please, and then Councillor Scott.
That was actually the reason I'd put my hand up, because I'd spotted that one too. So well done on picking that up, and we've got the right wording now. But I will just say that I do support the amendment, because I think it correctly puts the failure where the failure is with this government. You know, failure, the future fit just doesn't exist in a bubble. This isn't the desire just of a few local NHS bosses in our area. This is NHS trying to grapple with underfunding. So this government has failed to adequately invest in healthcare across the country, failed to invest and recruit or even have a proper plan for staffing in the NHS so that we're able to have adequate services across our area covered by SATH. So I support the amendment because it absolutely sets out where the failure is. It's with the government, not with this council.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I fully support the amendment. The only issue I've got with the amendment when it came out is it came out at 3:10 this afternoon. So the plea would be if amendments do come out, could they come out a bit earlier so we've got a chance to have a real proper look at them before we come to the meeting. But I completely agree with the amendment. The Tories here in distress, shall we say, are worried about the public reaction against the failures of the NHS and ridiculously try to put a motion forward to try and blame this council for the state of the NHS locally, which is, it's just a sick joke. I mean, people out there know that the government fund the NHS. We can act as an advocate, we can act as a sounding board for people, we can try and push things forward, but at the heart of it all is funding from the national government, whether that is your pharmacist, your GP or your hospital. And the sad fact, it's not a sad fact, it's a tragic fact. When you look at people on trolleys in A&E now, and there's a colleague I know, people leaving in droves because they're so stressed out, they're so fearful, they're so worried about what's going on. The capacity, Princess Royal's at capacity now in A&E, and they're looking through to the winter and thinking, what on earth we're going to do? And the answer is they're going to extend the queues back further down the corridor of people on trolleys. They have got no other option. And I'm sure this has been repeated at Shrewsbury and up and down the country. It's an abject failure of this government to look after the people, the basic needs of these people, and to try and trump up the original motion to try and blame the council is a sick joke. I fully support this amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tomlinson. And I've been advised that the deadline actually was 2 o'clock today, so that might help to answer that question regarding submissions. Councillor Scott.
It was a relief to see this as an amendment, to be honest, because when I read the original motion, I thought, what a waste of time. And then I hear about the Cramlington idea again, and I think, well, that boat sailed a long, long time ago, even if it was ever going to happen. It's quite amusing also to hear Keir Starmer brought into the argument, a man who hasn't even been elected Prime Minister, and who knows whether he will. Now, I sit in this chamber, and I am elected to represent the people of Newport West, to be precise, but I'll talk to anybody. And when they talk to me about this particular situation, they say that they're concerned because we sit at the furthest east of the borough. So any changes to our A&E situation and our children's situation is a negative for us. So to see that this council, and I would rather hope it was unanimous really, because we all sit on this council for the right reasons, and that's to represent the people of the borough, we all support this because it is actually saying what everyone is saying to me, certainly in terms of what they want to see in the future and how they wish the council to behave and to support and to promote the health service in the borough of Telford and Wrekin. So yes, it must be supported because there's really no alternative. We know where we stand, so all power to you for putting this forward, and I hope everyone, forget your party politics, one of the beauty of being independent, forget your party politics, remember your ward members, your residents, and vote in favour of this because that's what they want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Scott. I'd like to call now Councillor Middleton and then Councillor Watling, did you indicate? Yeah. Oh, he's not allowed, no. Okay, thank you. Councillor Middleton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I just thought I'd point out this just really indicates that the Conservative Party have clearly ran out of ideas to the point where they've started having a go at themselves because they've run out of things to blame us for. It's an absolutely ridiculous thing to put through when clearly it's a Conservative government that are doing this to Telford and Wrekin. Our residents have made it exceptionally clear that they want an A&E in Telford, and as Councillor Carter alluded to earlier, they just don't listen, and they're not listening to our residents. And I hope at election time residents, make that point on the voting, because it's absolutely ridiculous that your government can do this to Telford and Wrekin, and you sit there trying to blame other people instead of supporting the residents that put you in your seats for whatever reason that was, and instead of supporting people who've been asking you, they want an A&E, and we need an A&E in Telford and Wrekin.
Thank you very much, Councillor Middleton. Okay, before we move to the vote on the amendment, Councillor E, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I do actually. It's interesting to see once again the amendment to a motion that we put forward. It seems that this administration have lost the will or the ability to actually have a political debate on a set menu without having to change it really. But there we are. The leader talked about division on this issue. I'm not sure what division that is. As far as I know, we're now on the same page that we really did want to see a hospital built between Shrewsbury and Telford. And sadly, that is a boat that has sailed, but it didn't need to have done. We could have arrived at that point a good deal earlier. My comments about people getting weary are quite true, and people are getting fatigued with this. Councillor Watling mentioned 20,000 locally signing a petition. That's a lot of people, granted. I remember the first petition, that reached, and I'm working from memory here, I think that was about 34,000. So it actually seems to have gone down somewhat. And I remember at that time also that a lot of people signing the petition there was a good percentage of those actually lived outside the borough, in fact, all over the country. So what I'm being told by residents, and I do talk to residents about this, that they just want it sorted now. They've got to that point. Now, I'm sure Councillor Tomlinson, despite what he says, remembers when we fought this about 2009. He was part of that, and we made him part of that fight. And we sent the NHS packing at that particular juncture over similar proposals, and we defended the hospital to the hilt, which is something that we will continue to do. This is an NHS plan. It's done by clinicians. We know a lot of the reasons for that, certainly centred around Shrewsbury and what clinicians there and consultants wanted to see. So it's always been a fight about that. And if we'd have pulled something together, and there was an opportunity to do that, because everybody involved in this, and I mean everybody at one point or another, said they were happy to see a hospital built in the middle. And that includes Shropshire Council and the leader of that council. And that opportunity we should have grasped at that time. There's no difference. We have offered to work with you on this time and time again. If you look at previous motions and also the contributions that have been made in full council, we're more than happy to do that. That was never in question. This town needs, quite clearly, the demographics are there, the arguments are there, and what has happened is a tragedy for this area that as I see it.
5 seconds.
Now, I'm not a clinician, of course, so that is very much a personal view.
And thank you. Okay. Councillor Watley.
Thanks, thanks, Mr. Speaker.
This isn't a right of. It's not a right of reply. Did you want to?
Want a recorded vote, please.
Thank you very much. Okay. In order, before we do this, many of you have done it many times. This is the first time I've asked for it. I'm advised that we need to have at least a support of 8 members. So apologies. So can we just have a show of hands or stand up to we got it? That's fine. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Okay. I'll now hand over to Anthea to take this.
So just to confirm, this is a recorded vote on the amendment that you see before you on the screen. Councillor Bentley, Councillor Boylan, Councillor Burford, Councillor Burrell, Councillor Carter, Councillor Cook, Councillor Elise Davies, Councillor Sean Davies, Councillor Paul Davis, Councillor Duran, Councillor Dugmore, Councillor Eade, Councillor Nathan England, Councillor Handley, Councillor Hannington, Councillor Healy, Councillor Yanker, Councillor Gerard, Councillor Jones, Councillor Lewis, Councillor Lutter, Councillor McClements, Councillor Meta, Councillor Middleton, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Overton, Councillor Parker, Councillor Priest, Councillor Steve Reynolds, Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Sahota, Councillor Scott, Councillor Serder, Councillor Thomas, Gareth Thomas, sorry, Councillor Paul Thomas, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Karen Tomlinson, Councillor Bill Tomlinson, Councillor Tonks, Councillor Turley, Councillor Tyrrell, Councillor Uri, Councillor Vickers, Councillor Watling, Councillor White. That's unanimously in favour of the amendments. That becomes a substantive motion, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Councillor Davis.
Speaker, I ask that the question now be put.
Thank you. And we are now all the way down. Right. Can I have a show of hands in favour of the substantive motion, and a show of hands, please, in favour? Yep. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 13B. Can Councillor Tim Nelson move the motion as detailed in the agenda on the shown on the screen, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my congratulations to the Alderman, and particularly, if you'll forgive me, my colleague and friend Veronica Fletcher. Members, some of this content will seem obvious to you. We are invited to restate a policy of 35% affordable dwellings per development above a certain size in North Telford, which is defined as Newport and rural, and a lower objective of 25% in South Telford. The underlying principles are common for both. We could tie ourselves in knots and play four-dimensional chess with defining affordable. To whom, where in Telford and Wrekin or the UK, at what stage in people's lives, young, old, midway, employed or unemployed, single or couples, family, child-free, bank of mum and dad, or on their own resources, let alone discussing why affordability has become so critical at all. Long-term demographic changes wrought by longevity, and our leaders talked about an ageing borough. Family structure changes towards smaller households. The UK population becoming much larger for reasons I won't dwell upon here. The Guardian newspaper published only the other week its own national analysis by postcode area seeking to identify affordability. They categorised areas from can buy, can rent to can't buy, can't rent. The borough features across all categories they identify. It is revealing. However, even they were forced to grossly generalise the context using only couples regarding household structure and median earnings regarding income. Nonetheless served to make comparisons. At the heart of the debate about the presence or absence of affordable dwellings lie, to me, three principles. One, that individuals are best equipped to make choices about their own lives. Two, beyond a certain scale of development, mixed tenure makes for durable and sustainable community, and sole tenure does not. And third, public limited company developers, and that's what most of the big ones are obliged to maximise shareholder value. This might imply them wanting to build sole tenure, highest open market price dwelling per plot, and affordability targets mitigate against this. In 2019-20, 65% of households in England were homeowners, and that proportion would be similar today. The rate of home ownership in England has declined from 71% in 2003, despite being the tenure of choice for most people. The 2014 British Social Attitude Survey found that, given a free choice, 86% would prefer to buy their own home rather than rent. Owner-occupier remains the large majority tenure and aspiration, a property-owning democracy. Telford and Wrekin Council support this. A, by empowering developers to build at 65% or 75% open market sale units, and B, by supporting definitions of affordable which include owner-occupiers. We are familiar with the concept of shared ownership schemes, and we will become more familiar with first homes. The Council commits to first homes, which are properties for sale with 100% equity tenure at a discounted rate to open market, and prioritising first-time buyers, local connection and key workers. The Council's policy states a minimum of 25% of all affordable housing provided by developers on sites should be first homes. The qualification of on sites is germane. If developers are permitted to commutate in part or whole, that owner-occupier virtue may be lost, and I'm confident the Council is mindful of this in their delicate negotiations around viability with builders. The Council may wish to review Policy 7.28 in the draft local plan, which does refer to 80% affordable rent and 20% intermediate, and there may be some contradiction to a layperson being consulted that 25% first homes and 20% intermediate are not the same. Affordability targets are there for a reason. They support mixed tenure communities, and they support, albeit indirectly, the owner-occupier tenure we and our residents aspire to. They can form the first rung on the ladder. Support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Dugmore, you wish to second?
Yeah, thank you.
Right, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that everyone in this chamber supports the concept of affordable homes, whether it's rented or private accommodation. As a long-serving member of the Planning Committee, I'm often disappointed as how frequently developers reduce the number of affordable homes, and in many cases, affordable homes are not built at all on some developments. In the current local plan review, levels up to 35% are being suggested, yet very few developments will deliver such high numbers. The Planning Department should be urged to take a firm line on this and ensure that the levels of affordable housing in our planning policy are actually delivered. As well as the quality of affordable, the quantity of affordable homes, the other important factor is the location. Affordable housing in the rural area, for instance, is desirable to ensure that rural communities can thrive. I fully support homes for people who have a close connection to a rural community, but care should be taken when allocating such rural accommodation. There are many examples where single parents without transport are placed in rural accommodation, where there's few facilities and poor public transport, leading to problems with isolation, mental health issues, schooling, etc. So, Mr. Speaker, while I fully support affordable housing provision, it must be delivered as per council policy and sufficient provision in urban and rural areas to satisfy demand. I urge everybody to support the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dugmore. I believe there's an amendment to this motion and additions will be put on screen and shown in yellow. Councillor Richard Overton, I believe you wish to propose the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I firstly thank Councillor Nelson for pointing out the abject failure of the Conservative government over the last 13 years when it comes to housing, and the fact that they've had 16 housing ministers in 13 years shows why. I will move the amendment that's tabled on the screen to really enhance and improve the motion to show this Labour administration's commitment to affordable housing in our borough. Since 2011, we have continued to build more affordable homes to support our residents' access to housing. The total number of affordable homes delivered since 2011 is 3,473. That's new affordable homes in Telford and Wrekin. That's 3 in 10 of new homes across the borough. We know this allows choice. We know that quality homes for affordable rent or to buy are a priority for this council and our local residents. We have delivered an average 60% of new affordable homes through Homes England grant. This grant has meant that difficult and brownfield sites can come forward while still delivering affordable housing, such as the scheme at Donington Wood. We continue to work closely with registered housing providers. Delivery through partnerships is key in supporting 100% affordable housing schemes. We've also increased the number of properties made available to residents in greatest housing needs through our nomination rights by building these key relationships and putting residents into an affordable home. We've taken a proactive approach protecting the needs of local residents by setting a local criteria for first homes, as Councillor Nelson mentions, that come forward, including a higher level of discount on a first home at 40%, a reduced income cap to ensure the scheme is targeted at those most in need, such as key workers. And the local plan review will provide an opportunity to deliver more affordable homes across the borough, as well as a mix of housing that will meet the long-term needs of our residents. The policy proposal we have put forward will build on the Council's innovative Homes for All document that will support more supported and specialist homes coming forward, including bungalows and more accessible housing in the borough. Added to this, our wholly owned company New Place is delivering some of our schemes affordable homes to rent, and our new Telford and Wrekin Homes initiative is not only bringing form of social housing back into use, making these homes fully affordable, as well as helping and supporting our neighbourhoods through this model, supporting key workers too. I therefore move the amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Overton. Councillor Carter, do you wish to second?
Second, reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. Okay, now open up to debate. As a reminder, as previous, this is a debate on the proposed amendment only and not on the substance of the motion that will be open for debate after the amendment has been dealt with. Anybody wish to? Councillor? And then a cabinet. Okay, Councillor Tomlinson, Councillor Morgan.
I just think there's a few errors actually. I think it should be which is currently subject to review. And when they say 3473 affordable what, I just think it's been a bit rushed. I think it might need to be looked at a bit more. And build, do you mean built? Affordable have been built across, do you mean built? I just think it needs to be perhaps tidied up a little.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just going to hand over to the monitoring officer, Anthea.
Yeah, just to be clear, I think that's been an administrative error. So the amendment should read, this council restates its commitment to 35% affordable homes where such a target can be agreed through the current government national policy framework. The council notes that 35% is the target for Newport and rural areas within the existing local plan, which is currently subject to review and public consultation. The council notes that 3,473 affordable homes have been built across the whole borough from 2011 to 2022, which equates to over 3 in 10 homes built in that period. This council agrees to continue to deliver affordable homes through every available option, including developer contribution, Seek More Homes England grant, and through direct delivery from New Place and Telford and Wrekin Homes. This council resolves to continue to work with registered social landlords in the delivery of further homes. And then it ends.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. Okay. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment in terms of this motion baffles me. Once again, we're attacking really comprehensive schemes that Telford and Wrekin deliver. And I can personally say, in terms of, you know, home ownership for people my age is not attainable because of our Conservative government, because of the cost of living, not just now, but through the 13 years of their tenure. Telford and Wrekin have their New Place scheme, which is affordable and very good quality homes, which are not going to be taken away because a landlord decides that they're going to up the rent, or a landlord decides they're going to sell that home. So I want to celebrate what Telford and Wrekin do for people in my generation who are probably not going to be able to afford to buy their own home anytime soon. And actually, I support this motion and want to publicly say that what we do as an authority is pretty amazing.
Thank you very much. I didn't see anyone else indicate, so if you reserved your right to speak, Councillor Carter, you happy with that? Okay, thank you very much. Back to yourself, Councillor Nelson. Is there anything you wish to add?
Yeah, thank you very much, Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, I'm only very briefly. I thank my colleague Nigel in terms of requesting that the plans focus on making sure that the council's objective, 35%, is actually delivered in terms of dwelling, and his request that just consideration is given to the location in regarding who goes where, that the affordable dwellings which are made then have the tenants who can, or owners who can best make use of them, enjoy them, and he referred to the urban and rural split. And then in terms of the amendment, thank you, Councillor Overton. I didn't have the number built, and it would have been useful if I had, and the ratio of over 3 in 10, just showing we're heading towards 35%. Quite right. Of course, the council should explore every option and seek out grants, and I didn't mention that in my speech, and I should have done. And naturally, we're going to work with Wrekin Housing Trust, Wrekin Homes, New Place, and social landlords. To be honest, I felt I was making the best stab I could at praising a council policy, which I happen to believe in quite strongly. When I was very first on Newport Parish Council, which should be 17 years ago, one of the first things we talked about was affordable objectives for Newport, and we committed at that point to 35%, and you may feel you wish I'd stayed there, and sometimes in this chamber I feel I wish I'd stayed there, but it remains. I am supportive of the matter of the original motion, and in fact the amendment, which just clarifies and enhances it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nelson. Okay, moving to the vote for that. Yeah. Okay, so we'll now move to the vote on the amendment. So can I have a show of hands in favour of the amendment, please? That's unanimous and it's carried. Thank you very much.
Will be put if they're in favour of it then?
Absolutely. So, with the question being put, can we now have a show of hands in favour of the motion? As amended, yeah. That's carried as well. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 13C. Councillor Eade, you've got a motion that you wish to move. That's on the, it's as detailed in the agenda and shown on the screen. 5 minutes again to propose. Thank you.
Oh, thank you once again, Speaker. As everybody here knows, I'm a very fair person and like to give credit where credit is due. And credit is certainly due with the thought, the intention and principle of retaining and ensuring green spaces in and around our borough. I mean, it's something I support. I do agree with it. As an aside, though, I do sometimes wonder if they should be renamed as green sites on which we cannot build, which might be nearer the point on some of them. Either way, the basic principle is good and they deserve to be made secure as protected sites and protected for all time. Now, unlike at present, as their green protection can be overturned by Cabinet for any reason at any time, and their protected status consequently shredded into little pieces. I do also greatly wonder the double standards involved, particularly when protecting some such small but important parcels of undevelopable land, while your local draft plan is proposing to build on huge swathes of our open countryside and green fields. My colleague, Councillor Nelson, has told me that despite 2/3 of the borough being green and rural, your administration's draft local plan does not mention the word farming once. Not once. Which again calls into question the current scope of the green guarantee sites. I did, as you might recall, bring a motion to full council last year, I think it was, asking for protection to be placed on greenfield agricultural land from solar farms to enhance food security. And I think that was quite an important measure. And in fairness, despite this administration doing exactly the same thing by building a solar farm on green agricultural fields itself, it did fight 2 proposals around the Wrekin area. Now, it was a good decision to make, and one that a local authority should do on behalf of its community. It was a decision which I fully supported, despite the cost, and it mirrored what our administration did when fighting open cast mining at Alston. I would urge the Council's administration to think more widely about the Green Guarantee Scheme, especially in considering a stronger lock on existing sites, as well as extending the scope to include additional areas of varying and much larger sizes. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Councillor Eade. Councillor Nelson, do you wish to second?
I'll second, and I will speak, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Largely restate the argument that my colleague has just made. The Green Guarantee is a cabinet declaration of strategy. I've looked up to try and find a policy statement, and in the publicly available information on Telford and Wrekin's website, I can't find what's stated as a policy. So what there is a ringing proposal of good intention. It won't hurt to restate the Council's words. The Green Guarantee protects areas of council land from any future development. Now, forgive me, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions, which will probably serve as my epitaph. A good intention is better than no intention, and much better than a bad intention. A great British war leader is credited as saying that, among many other pithy observations. Nothing is ever as bad nor as good as it first appears. The Green Guarantee is what is known as a politician's promise. Still, it is a promise and to be applauded as such. Behind the noble words lie an unwritten truth: for as long as we are this cabinet, it is a reserved position. Cabinet understandably reserved to themselves the right to sell the freehold of green guarantee land and to issue leases and licences. This was restated by Councillor Healy in 2001. So what might constitute, I could find the document, 2021? They are keeping up, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that. The content of a guarantee is very widely understood by lay people. Most of us are lay people. If you look up the legal definitions of guarantee, it starts and continues to talk about surety, principals and debtors, and the lawyers amongst us will not be confused by this, the rest of us may be. Most of us understand a guarantee as irrevocable and impersonal. So could green guarantee status or its equivalent be made irrevocable? For instance, what if the council sold green guarantee land to a body such as a charity, who would then be prohibited in law from developing it? And that may be a step too far. Perhaps the council could time define the protection, at least for the life of this council, do not review for 4 years, which are ideas to explore. Support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nelson. I understand there's an amendment to the motion. The additions will be shown on screen in yellow. Councillor Healy, would you like to propose the amendment?
Yeah, so I'm proposing this, this amendment to give some greater clarity to our commitment to green space. But first of all, I just want to point out that what the green guarantee is, there's clearly a lack of understanding over there. So paragraph 100 of the National Planning Policy Framework actually sets out about local green space designations. This is built into national planning policy. We've called them green guarantee locally, but they're local green space designations, and the actual document says is the national planning policy should only be used where the green area concerned is not an extensive tract of land. We can't apply green guarantee to vast tracts of farmland. We have to apply it to land that is used for accessible green space close to communities, used for recreation, on land that we own. That's what green guarantee is. However, I'm proposing this amendment to provide more context and set out our unwavering commitment to protecting green spaces to benefit people and wildlife. The original motion only refers to Green Guarantee Scheme, and indeed, this scheme is something that this Labour Council introduced and that we are very proud of. It's also something that we restated our commitment in our last manifesto. It's even there, highlighted in the bold bit. We'll grow the number of green guarantee sites and hectares of protected green space. So thanks for effectively repeating our manifesto pledge in your motion. But of course, the Green Guarantee, it is only one form of protection for green spaces. Earlier this week, Natural England sealed the local nature reserve declaration for Central Hall, and also the extensions for the renamed Dot Hill and Shore Birch local nature reserve, and extension to Granville local nature reserve. When Labour took control of this council, there were 5 local nature reserves and 0 green guarantee sites. Under this administration, we now have 18 local nature reserves, with a further 5 in the process of being declared, and 305 green guarantee sites. That's more green spaces protected than ever in the history of this council. In fact, Natural England, who are leading on the implementation of the new green infrastructure framework, are holding Telford and Wrekin Council up as an exemplar of best practice in terms of access to green spaces. But we want to go further. Beyond the land that this council owns, we will enhance the green network, which provides important linkages between our many green spaces across both public and private land, allowing wildlife to move between those sites. And we're also going to work with partners to protect their sites. This allows us to move beyond the land that we own, which the local sites designation in the National Planning Policy Framework doesn't allow us to do. It allows us to move beyond that, working with partners on a new Green Pledge designation. Of course, protecting green spaces isn't the end of the matter. This administration is investing £3.75 million into our parks, play areas and open spaces to improve them for our communities and for our wildlife, an investment that the opposition voted against, absolutely. Projects have included the re-wetting of Muxton Marsh SSSI, the Beelines project with the charity Bug Life, who again are holding us up as a best example of that project. Access improvements at a range of sites, including Granville Country Park, Newport Canal, and wildflower meadow creation throughout the borough. The results of this work is that not only do we have more protected green space than ever before, but it is of better quality, as demonstrated by our record 6 green flag parks. So I'm extremely proud of our record on the protection of green space and the fact that 95% of our residents live within 300 metres of an accessible green space, and that is why I've added to your motion with this amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Healy. Councillor Vickers, you wish to second the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to second the amendment to this motion. This Council's unwavering commitment to tackling the climate crisis and protecting our green spaces has been at the very heart of our operations since we declared a climate emergency in 2019, and is a shining example of Labour working hard on green issues within local government. I'm proud of the protection given to green spaces through the local nature reserve designations and the Green Guarantee Scheme, as this provided protection to a local nature reserve in Donington called Central Hall, or better known locally as the Snake. This is a brilliant example of a green site that families can enjoy, where wildlife can flourish, and opportunities for people to manage their local environments are unleashed. Something that I do find a little odd is the Conservative group's newfound love for the Green Guarantee Scheme, given they were unsupportive and critical of it when it was first introduced. Mr. Speaker, it's almost as if they come here and bring motions to this chamber purely to score party political points. And I'm not sure if they've noticed, but it is their Conservative Prime Minister in Westminster that has just mounted on the biggest climate climb down in history. I don't think anybody on that side of the chamber has the standing to lecture us on our green commitments. In stark contrast, on this side of the chamber, we have a Labour administration tackling the climate crisis, protecting our green spaces and providing millions of pounds of investment across the borough. And that's why I'd urge all of my colleagues to support the amendment to this motion tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Vickers. Okay, I'll now open up to debate. Again, I'll just, as a reminder, it's on the debate on the proposed amendment only. Do we have anybody that wishes to speak? No? Okay, that's marvellous. Absolutely. Councillor Reid?
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you to Councillor Healy as well for such a comprehensive breakdown of the green guarantee sites and everything you've done. I quite enjoyed it. I rather thought you might put quite a bit of work into that, and why not? You know, it's something to be proud of, and it's something that we do support. What I neglected to mention originally was the disappointing failure of this council to secure a judicial review to try and stop the Reekins 2 solar farms. It's beyond belief that its administration did not file its case in time with the court and thus wasted over £35,000 of public money preparing a case that was never heard. All the more surprising is the council leader is an ex-lawyer and must carry the can, of course, to this huge faux pas. I wonder if he'd like to reimburse the council out of the £140,000 he now draws out of the public purse every year.
A point of order, Mr. Speaker, given that yet again the leader of the opposition attempts to attack staff who can't speak on their behalf, because he knows full well that, of course, as a council leader, I don't file individual papers to the court. So his attack is again in the gutter, and he should withdraw it. And if he wants to withdraw it, maybe he should have a long, hard think about why he continues to attack vulnerable people and people without a voice.
Thank you very much. Councillor, members, please. We're moving to a vote regarding the amendment. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please?
Thank you. That is carried. Members, please. We want this to be put now, don't we? Comments on the substantive motion. So we'll move to a vote again. All those in favour? And again, that's unanimous and it's carried. Before you pack away, I'd just like to say thank you all for attending. The next meeting will be on the 25th of January 2024. I hope you all have an opportunity to enjoy the festive season, and I wish you a happy and healthy new year. Please stand for the departure of the Deputy Mayor.